2 words, herb bread. In 1 word, delicious. To make it more specific, what we're making is crusty herb artisan bread with fruit yeast water. It tastes amazing, looks amazing, and is all round awesome. It's also a breeze to make and no knead. Perfect for a beginner and still compelling enough for an expert. So let's get right into it. We start, as always, with our Poolish. It's like a once upon a time at the start of a tale, so 70 grams of bread flour and equal amounts of yeast water. For more on fruit yeast water, do check out the link in the description box. We have a whole video on it. This is where we can get the yeast to reproduce and really develop some delicious flavors to add to our bread. Combine until smooth, and we're good. Cover with plastic and let that sit for 12 to 18 hours, or until it looks like this, which took 15 hours here. As you can see, it's risen up and has a surface looking as dimpled and rough as the surface of a golf ball. So let's send it into a collision course with our mixing bowl. First, I'll just let it slide out. And then I'm using a spatula to clean it up. I like doing this over a scale as well, just to make sure I've gotten all of the Poolish. Then we add in our liquids first, 120 grams of water to start with. Pour it in. Add 16 grams of olive oil. And then add salt. Bring in our herbs, smashing them in. These herbs will make our bread taste ridiculously good, although I'm only adding a teaspoon each of rosemary and thyme each. Do not underestimate their effects on the resulting bread. Alright, we're just mixing until combined here. When you have that at a smoothish consistency, the Poolish, olive oil, water, herbs, and salt have all befriended each other and turned into this mix. Then we can bring in our final ingredient, 200 grams of flour. We mix for a couple of minutes, just until it looks like this. There's no more dry flour, it's all incorporated. Now clean up the sides of the bowl, just so there isn't so much dough stuck there. You can just stick them back into the main dough. You're gonna cover the bowl with some plastic and leave it for 45 minutes. So here we are with our dough after 45 minutes. Take off the plastic and just savor that scent. It smells so good, which is an excellent sign. Now let's get folding. Prepare a bowl of water next to the dough. We're going to be dipping our hands in so the dough doesn't stick to our hands too much. Using water prevents the dough from doing that, which makes handling a lot easier. So we're going to start with the top fold. Grab the top of the dough firmly but gently. Then pull it up as high as it'll go before dropping it down like this. We'll spin the bowl by 180 degrees. Then do the same thing for the bottom side. Left side. and right. Also making sure to dip our hands into the water occasionally if the dough is a bit sticky. The water will help it slide right off. So when we're done with all the folds, we can just cover that with plastic, and there you have it. We completed our first set of folds. This is 1 out of 4 sets that we need to do. We're now going to leave the dough for another 45 minutes before doing the next set of folds. So what's folding and why are we doing it? Well, folding is a lot like a workout for the dough. Not that it exhausts the dough into forming more muscles. It actually works by realigning the gluten strands in the dough, which helps develop the gluten network, giving the dough more strength. Kneading dough works in much the same way. However, folding is far more gentle and also a lot more convenient for higher hydration bread dough like this one. It's also a very non-fussy technique. Takes less than 5 minutes to do. More like 2 minutes really. It's very simple and easy. And then after that, we'll leave it again for 45 minutes before doing another set of folds. Basically, 4 sets of folds total with 45 minutes between each one. As we progress through the foldings, you should notice the dough has more strength. It's getting a bit tenser, holding its shape a bit better. This is good, really nice. It's a sign of gluten development, which is exactly what we want. It should also look fluffier. There should be air building up inside as a result of the yeast activity. After the 4th and final set of folds, it looks like this. It's strong, holding its shape rather nicely, and is very fluffy. When you shake the bowl a little, you can see it jiggle a lot. It's very fun to watch, and also a very good sign of a nice airy dough. Once we've done the final fold, we're just going to let the dough rest for another 45 minutes. Enough time for the gluten to relax before we continue working with it. Alright, here it is after 45 minutes. Obviously, it's expanded in size since the beginning. Just before we flip it out onto the surface, I'm going to just lightly dust the surface with some flour. Not too much. This much is enough to prevent the dough from sticking all over the place. Then flip the bowl over onto the surface. The dough should come out pretty easily due to all the folding. Just give it some time to drop right out of the bowl. Once it's out, we're going to just gently form it into the shape of a boule by flipping the floured side below over so that it's now on top. Then just use your hands to round the dough like this. We're going to do it a couple of times just until it becomes a round boule with a slightly tense surface. It doesn't need to be too tensely shaped because this is just a pre-shaping. We're going to build more tension later. We'll just round until it looks like this. It's not very tight and tense, it's still a bit soft, but it's got a good spring to it. We're good to go with this, so cover it with a glass bowl and leave it for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, here's our dough. It's loosened up, it's not tense, it's nice and relaxed. Add a bit of flour to the top, which is our smooth side. Then with a little flour on your scraper, loosen the bottom of the boule. And then we'll pick it up and flip it over. To shape it into a tight boule, grab the edges around the circumference and pull them all into the center, just like this. Keep going until you feel it getting very tense. Then we'll turn it over again so the seam side is on the bottom, like this. All we have to do now is gently round this into a boule. This step has two purposes: to further round the boule and to seal the seam on the bottom. So keep rounding for a couple of turns until you feel this is extremely smooth and taut. It's strong and bouncy when you press on it. This tight surface tension will really help the dough keep its shape later on, and that's definitely a big benefit. Okay, this is enough rounding. Get ready to throw it into our proofing container. So, let's just line this bowl with some cloth. Now, to prevent the dough from sticking to the cloth, using a sieve, I'm just going to dust the cloth liberally with rice flour. Rice flour is amazing at preventing the dough from sticking. It's much better than flour since the dough doesn't eat it up as fast. I'm also going to dust the top of my dough with some rice flour. And then using my scraper to help me pick it up, I'll gently, well, trying to be gentle, drop it into the proofing container. We're going to be retarding this dough now, so put the container into a plastic bag or Ziploc bag, seal it well, and place it in the fridge for 4 to 8 hours. To say it straight, retarding the dough is going to make it taste better, because the lower temperatures in our fridge will slow down fermentation, so the enzymes in the dough have more time to develop delicious flavors, and we're all for delicious flavors, right? Also, chilling the dough makes it a lot easier to score. There's less drag when you pull the razor, I find. With that, let's skip ahead in time to 6 hours after we put it in the fridge. It's cool to the touch, and now we're going to take it out of the container. Getting our parchment paper, setting it atop the bowl, and then just flipping it over quickly. The dough lands in your hand, just set it down, pull up the bowl, unveil the cloth, and just marvel. It is a beauty. To prepare it for scoring, I'll just dust off some of the excess rice flour with a little brush, then add back just a bit to give it a more even covering. Pat it down with our hands. Then let's get our sharp razor blades, making sure to be really careful not to cut ourselves. I'm using a straight razor blade just like this, but you could use a lame, a sharp knife, or even scissors, I think. Using this blade, I'm just going to make one long deep cut at about a 45-degree angle to the dough. Then I'm going to go back in at a more horizontal angle. I'm doing this because I really want a nice ear, just like this owl's ear tufts. You see them? With this scoring, I'll get them. However, it's not really necessary. You could just go with the first deep cut. It's owl up to you. Okay, once we're satisfied with the scoring, we'll put it into the glass casserole baking pan, close it, and then put it into a preheated oven set to 250 degrees Celsius. We'll be baking for 35 minutes with the lid on, and then take off the lid and bake for another 20 minutes or until the crust has turned dark brown. So this way of baking with the glass casserole pan covered with a lid in the beginning is to actually give our dough more time to expand. You see, if we just put our dough into the oven and let it go, then the outer crust of the dough would actually harden too quickly. In just a couple of minutes, it would harden to the point where the dough would have serious trouble expanding, which isn't really what we want. By containing the dough in the casserole pan with a lid, we actually hold the steam and moisture inside the baking container. This keeps our dough's outer crust softer for longer, allowing the bread to expand a lot more. Then we can take off the lid and get that hard crust. If you don't have a glass casserole or something to cover the dough with while it bakes, you can add a little bowl of water in the oven. It serves the same purpose. It produces steam, allowing the bread to rise for longer. Then you can just take out the water when it's time to bake without it. Our bread is done. Look at that beautiful dark crust, a good sign of what's called the Maillard reaction. Okay, now while it's tempting to dig into the hot bread immediately, that's no good. We have to let it cool down to room temperature before we cut it. It's still very hot right now. If we cut into it, we could actually ruin the insides, making them gummy. Thus, patience. Yes, we have to be patient, even if it smells amazing and must also taste amazing. Okay, time skip. Our bread has cooled. Finally, now let's cut it open. And there you have it, a great artisan herb boule. It tastes brilliant too, by the way. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and bye!